Most people are dead. They just haven't realized it yet. They wake up, scroll, obey, sleep. They confuse habits for purpose, noise for truth, comfort for meaning. But deep inside, something screams, a whisper that says, "This isn't it." That whisper is your soul trying to wake you up. Socrates didn't say, "The unexamined life is not worth living," to be poetic. He meant it as a warning. If you don't question who you are, what you believe, and why you live the way you do, you're already lost. You're not living, you're maintaining. And the world is happy to keep you there, numb, obedient, distracted. You're easier to manage that way because self-examination makes you dangerous. It pulls the mask off. It ruins comfort. It demands war against everything false. If you don't examine your life, you live a script written by someone else, your parents, your culture, your fears. You're a puppet, thinking you're free because your chains are invisible. But real freedom begins with one thing: radical honesty. And honesty starts with self-confrontation. Who are you beneath the image, beneath the likes, the clothes, the job title? Most can't answer because most are running from themselves. But not you. You're still here. That means something in you refuses to sleep. That means the war has already begun inside you. The examined life is not theory, it's a fight, a demolition of illusions, a rejection of lies. It is not clean, it is not easy. It is blood, sweat, and scars. But it is the only life worth living. This isn't self-help. This is a call to arms. Every idea you'll hear in this video is a weapon. Every insight is a blade to cut through the fog. Every quote, every thought, every challenge is for one purpose: to wake you up and keep you awake. This is not a video, it's a battlefield, and your mind is the territory. By the end, you'll either take it back or lose it forever. Most people exist, but they do not live. They laugh when expected, follow the crowd, repeat headlines like mantras, but inside, they are hollow. Their lives are predictable routines, automated, anesthetized, absent of real awareness. They fear silence because silence forces confrontation. And confrontation? That reveals the terrifying truth. They've never chosen who they are. They've only inherited it. The unexamined life is a mask, polished, praised, but not real. Socrates didn't say those words to inspire. He said them to wake people up. Because the moment you begin to question, why do I believe what I believe? Who taught me that? What if it's a lie? You set fire to everything safe. You no longer fit in. You no longer follow blindly. You burn the script and stand alone. That's why most avoid it. They'd rather be accepted than awake. Nietzsche called it herd morality, the choice to be safe instead of sovereign, to trade the truth of your soul for the comfort of belonging. He said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That why only comes from going inward, brutally, honestly, relentlessly. But the herd doesn't want why. It wants repetition. It wants compliance. It wants you numb. You can have all the trophies, all the attention, all the validation, and still feel dead. Because if your identity isn't chosen, it's fiction, and fiction collapses. That's why people run from silence. Because silence reveals the cracks. So they chase dopamine, another scroll, another show, another hit of distraction. But silence is sacred. Silence is the soul knocking. And they slam the door shut every single day. Carl Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's the danger of the unexamined life. You don't live it, it lives you. Your trauma speaks, your past reacts, your fears vote, and you think you're in control, but you're just a puppet with a polished mask. Examination is rebellion. It's cutting the strings. It's waking up in the middle of your own performance and asking, who am I really? And that question is the first act of power, because once you ask it, the trance starts to break. You see the herd. You see the trap. You see yourself, raw, real, unfiltered. And when you do, you will terrify those around you. They'll call it a crisis. They'll say you've changed, but you haven't changed. You've returned. You've reclaimed what they buried. And now you're dangerous, because a thinking mind can't be controlled. A soul on fire can't be manipulated. A person who sees truth can never again settle for illusion. The herd will hate you. The world will push back. But you'll feel something you haven't felt in years. Aliveness, a pulse, a presence, the birth of real life. And from that moment on, you're not just existing, you are living. To examine your life isn't to think about it once a month. It's not journaling when you feel lost or venting in therapy. It's not a phase. It's a war, a relentless daily choice to confront reality. It's asking yourself with brutal honesty, where did this belief come from? Is this mine? Or was it injected into me by someone too afraid to question their own life? The examined life is exposure. You pull every mask off. You dig until the lies bleed. You rip comfort to shreds to uncover what's real. It's a painful process, because the first thing you meet isn't truth, it's shame. The raw embarrassment of seeing how much of you was just imitation. But if you don't face it, you can't grow past it. Socrates never offered peace. He offered clarity. And clarity comes at a cost. But it's in that fire that the real self begins to take shape. Because only someone who's faced their shadows can build real strength. Not performative confidence, not borrowed opinions, real, grounded, internal power. That's what the examined life creates. Not just knowledge, but transformation. Transformation that starts with collapse. Carl Jung warned, people will do anything to avoid facing their own soul. Why? Because the soul doesn't lie. The soul remembers every compromise, every fear, every time you stayed quiet when you should have screamed. That's the shadow. It's not evil. It's not wrong. It's everything you refused to feel, everything you buried to survive. And if you don't integrate it, it controls you from the dark. The examined life doesn't destroy the shadow, it integrates it. You look at your flaws and say, I see you, but you don't control me anymore. That moment, that's freedom, because now you're living with your whole self, not just the parts the world likes. Until then, every dream is fake. Every decision is tainted. You cannot build truth on top of self-deception. This path is not perfection. It's honesty. And honesty is hard, but it's the only place worth living from. Because when you're honest, you stop performing. You stop chasing approval. You stop living for applause. You start living from alignment. And alignment? That is where meaning is born. To examine your life is to become dangerous, not to others, to illusions. Because the moment you live in truth, the world can no longer control you with lies, not with guilt, not with fear, not with shame. The world loses its grip because you found something deeper, yourself. Self-deception is the most dangerous prison, and the scariest part is, it feels like home. There are no bars, no alarms, just comfort, just soothing lies that sound like wisdom. That's just how I am. It's not the right time. At least I'm trying. These are not truths, they're walls. And every time you repeat them, the walls grow thicker until one day you wake up inside a life that doesn't even feel like yours. We build our own mental cages, brick by brick, excuse by excuse. We cover fear with fake goals. We replace meaning with busyness. We drown doubt in distractions. And all the while we call it normal. We call it adulthood. We call it being realistic. But what it really is, what it's always been, is surrender. Silent, daily surrender to a version of yourself you never chose. Socrates knew the real enemy wasn't ignorance. It was false certainty. People thinking they knew, refusing to question. He said he was wise only because he knew that he knew nothing. That humility, that's where real self-awareness begins. But today, we glorify confidence even when it's based on delusion. We celebrate conviction even when it's never been tested. So people stay blind, not because they have to, but because they want to. Because truth threatens the story. Nietzsche saw it coming. People don't want the truth. They want their illusions intact. That's what self-deception is, the fear that if you open your eyes, your whole world might fall apart. And it might. But that world wasn't yours to begin with. It was built on survival, on fear, on lies told often enough to become laws. But lies don't age well, they rot. And the longer you protect them, the more they destroy you. So ask yourself, what lie are you living? What truth are you avoiding? What story are you repeating that keeps you small? These aren't passive questions. They're weapons. They break down the walls. They shatter the comfort. They drag what's hiding in the shadows into the light. And that's when the real you can begin to emerge. Not the version molded by fear, but the one forged by honesty. Facing your own deception isn't destruction. It's freedom. It's terrifying, yes, but only because you've spent years building a life around what's false. And now, you're ready to burn it down, not to be reckless, but to rebuild with truth, brick by honest brick, grounded, real, alive. The person who stops lying to themselves becomes untouchable. They speak with clarity. They move with purpose. They act without needing applause because they've made peace with the truth, and the truth, once faced, loses its power to hurt you. So look in the mirror and ask the question most fear. What part of my life is built on a lie? And do I have the courage to face it? Inside every human being, there is a battlefield, not metaphorically, literally. A war between who you are and who you pretend to be, between your higher mind and your primal urges, between the part of you that seeks truth and the part that seeks escape. Most people never notice this war because they've already surrendered. They gave up the fight before it began, choosing comfort over clarity, distraction over depth. But if you've come this far, it means the war is alive in you. And that's good. That means you haven't gone numb. That means your soul is still fighting to take back control. And if you're willing to listen, to really listen, you'll hear the sounds of that war. In every hesitation, in every temptation, in every moment, you avoid the hard path when you know it's the right one. That's not weakness. That's the battlefield. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The battlefield isn't the world, it's you. And if you can master that terrain, you can master anything. But most people don't train for that. They train for outcomes, for appearances. They want to win without becoming worthy of victory. And that's why they fail. You can't fake your way through this war. Your emotions will test you. Your impulses will betray you. Your fear will beg you to retreat. But you can't retreat. Not if you want to win. You must do what warriors do. You must prepare. You must arm yourself with reason, with clarity, with principles that do not bend to moods. You must become dangerous to your own weakness. And that starts with noticing. Notice when your mind justifies the easy way. Notice when your body craves pleasure at the cost of integrity. Notice when your ego wants praise more than truth. That awareness, that's your weapon. Use it, because if you don't, your desires will rule you, and nothing enslaves the soul faster than unexamined desire. Carl Jung warned that when we ignore the inner conflict, it doesn't go away. It becomes our reality. You start projecting your war onto the world. You blame others for your weakness. You resent those who are free. You despise those who reflect your unrealized potential. That's what happens when you lose the internal war. You externalize the chaos and call it life. But when you fight back, when you reclaim the seat of command inside your mind, everything changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start choosing. You become the general of your inner army, not the hostage of your feelings. That's power. That's freedom. That's the soul in command. This war will never fully end. There will always be conflict. But conflict is not the enemy. Blindness is. Cowardice is. The refusal to fight is. As long as you are willing to engage brutally, honestly, daily, you will grow, you will evolve, and you will become dangerous. Not in the violent sense, in the spiritual sense. Because the world cannot manipulate someone who has conquered himself. So ask yourself, who's in command right now? Is it you or your impulses, your habits, your fear? If it's not you, then today is the day you begin the battle, because the longer you wait, the more territory you lose. The battlefield is your life, and the prize is your soul. Most people say they want the truth, but they don't. They want safety. They want comfort wrapped in the costume of insight. Because real truth doesn't just inform, it shatters. It tears apart the stories you built to feel okay. It destroys the false self you've been performing for years. It rips the floor out from under everything you thought was stable. And it does all of that before it sets you free. That's why truth requires courage, not intelligence, not talent, courage. Because when you finally look in the mirror and ask, who am I really? You don't get a filtered answer. You get everything. The lies, the shame, the anger, the fear. You get all the parts you've been running from. And most people aren't ready for that. So they run, they distract, they blame. They do anything but look within. But looking within is the only thing that changes anything. Socrates knew this. His weapon wasn't a sword, it was a question. He asked people things so simple, so piercing, that their entire worldview began to unravel. And when people realized they couldn't answer honestly without exposing their own ignorance, they didn't thank him. They hated him. They executed him. Because nothing is more dangerous to a lie than a mind that insists on knowing. To know yourself is to risk everything false, your image, your status, your certainty. But what you gain is real. You gain alignment. You gain peace. You gain the power that only comes from living in truth. That power isn't loud. It doesn't boast. It's quiet, solid, unshakable, because it's built on what is, not what others see. Carl Jung said, people will do anything to avoid facing their soul. That's because the soul doesn't flatter. It doesn't negotiate. It reflects. And that reflection, that's your curriculum. That's your training ground. The more you see, the more you heal. The more you face, the more you grow. But only if you stop running. Only if you sit in the fire and let it burn off what isn't you. This kind of courage is rare. Most would rather build a life on illusion than risk discomfort for truth. But those who don't, those who go all the way in, they are reborn, stronger, wiser, quieter inside, because they don't need to pretend anymore. They've faced their shadows and survived, and now they walk with depth, with presence, with power. The courage to know isn't just about information, it's about liberation. It's the beginning of a life that's actually yours. Not borrowed, not scripted, not performed, lived. Deeply, consciously, relentlessly lived, every day, every moment, from the inside out. And here's the paradox. Once you find the courage to know yourself, you stop needing to prove yourself. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing judgment, because you've already stood trial in your own soul's courtroom and survived the verdict. That kind of freedom, no one can take it from you, because no one gave it to you. You earned it in silence, in darkness, in fire. So if you're waiting for permission to go deeper, this is it. If you're waiting for a sign to start asking the hard questions, this is it. And if you're afraid, good. That means the path is real. The path to truth is always guarded by fear. Walk through it anyway. On the other side is not perfection, it's authenticity. And that's what makes a life worth living. Most people will never examine their lives, not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's easier to stay asleep, easier to follow orders, easier to play roles and collect praise than to confront the mirror. But ease is a sedative. It kills without violence. It robs you of yourself one passive day at a time. And one day you look back and realize you lived 80 years without ever meeting the person you truly are. That is the cost of comfort. That is the price of the unexamined life. Not failure, not poverty, not pain, emptiness, regret. The slow burn of potential never realized. And that is why Socrates said what he said. He wasn't being poetic, he was warning us that the greatest tragedy isn't death, it's never having lived. But now you know. Now you've seen behind the curtain, and that knowledge comes with a choice. Go back to sleep or become dangerous. Not in the reckless sense, not in the violent sense. Dangerous because you can no longer be manipulated. Dangerous because you know who you are. Dangerous because you think for yourself. And the world does not want that. It wants obedience. It wants good citizens, good workers, good consumers, not free souls. But you don't belong to them. You never did. You belong to your truth, to your inner voice, to the version of you that refuses to die quietly. That voice is still there, waiting, hoping, begging for you to wake up and take the wheel, not tomorrow, now. Because no one else is coming. No one is going to save you. That was the lie. You are the hero. You are the warrior. You are the philosopher. And this life is your battlefield. So what will you do now? Go back to the mask? Pretend you didn't hear this? Or will you rise? Will you become the person who dares to look inside no matter how dark it gets? Will you become the person who chooses truth over approval? Who walks alone rather than follow the herd? Who stands even when the world tells you to kneel? That's what this has always been about. Not philosophy, not theory. Liberation. Taking back the mind. Owning your identity. Becoming whole. The examined life is not a concept. It's a revolution. And it begins with you. So here's the final truth. Your life is your responsibility, not your parents, not society, not luck, yours. And until you own that fully, completely, violently, you will never be free. But if you do, if you claim it, if you build it, if you live it, then you will become something rare, something powerful, something untouchable. because the world can only break those who are hollow, and you won't be hollow anymore. You'll be forged, tested, complete. Because this isn't about watching a powerful video and feeling something for a moment. It's about transformation, discipline, choosing again and again to stay awake in a world that profits from your sleep. This is a path of fire, and fire doesn't make you soft. It makes you real. So write it in the comments. I choose to live awake. Say it. Claim it. Let this be the first public declaration of your examined life. Not for me, for you. And if this video sparked something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe, share it, watch it again. Because the unexamined life ends now. And the real one, yours, it starts today.